This is Daphne Maxwell Reid, and I'm starring in Urban Movie Channel's Jacqueline and Jilly. I play Grandma Zilla. And welcome.
In Jacqueline and Jilly, Daphne Maxwell Reid plays the mother of Jacqueline and grandmother of Jilly in this three-generation drama about a privileged African-American family whose veneer of calm and cool explodes when it discovers that Jilly has an opioid addiction. The six-part miniseries is currently playing out on the Urban Movie Channel. It was written by and stars former Young and Restless soap opera star Victoria Rowell as Jacqueline and introduces a fresh face, Nico Austin Smith, as her troubled daughter, Jilly. In Daphne Maxwell Reid, Jacqueline and Jilly has a veteran actress who has been a steady fixture on network television, beginning with a long run on Hill Street Blues and continuing with 2 seasons on WKRP in Cincinnati, during which she met and married Venus flytrap himself, Tim Reed, with whom she appeared over 4 seasons following that on Simon and Simon, and 1 season of the critically acclaimed and much-missed Frank's Place. She then went on to 3 seasons as Will Smith's mom on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and 3 more on Eve. As her daughter in Jacqueline and Jilly, Victoria Rowell bears enough of a resemblance to Miss Reid that it's hard not to think it wasn't that long ago that she was playing the mother in these situations. I'm honestly curious in a moment to find out how she handled maturing into the grandmother role. By the way, if you're not familiar with the relatively new Urban Movie Channel, it is a subscription video-on-demand service that is the brainchild of BET founder and Charlotte Bobcats owner Robert Johnson. New episodes of Jacqueline and Jilly debut every Thursday through January 10th, 2019. And Daphne Maxwell Reid, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you very much for having me. Delighted.
My pleasure. Very nice to meet you and enjoy you in the show. You were smiling, so I'm hoping it doesn't, but does my wondering about how you handled growing into grandmother roles after years of playing mothers, does that make me a horrible person, or are you okay with that?
It's just fine with me. I'm still living. I'm 70 years old, and I am a grandmother, so it was not a stretch.
No offense taken, then. Thank you. Although we did clarify a moment ago, that is a wig on the show.
That's a wig. My hair is not that beautiful white, and it doesn't look that full. I'm getting the older grandma hair thinning thing going on here, but
you look great.
Thank you.
I just thought it just looked like a wig, and I just thought, yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So tell me about what attracted you to Jacqueline and Jilly. Was it the topicality of opioid addiction, or was it something else?
It was my dear friend Victoria Rowell. And yes, she looks like she's related to me because as she's been diving into her DNA, she found out she is related to me.
Oh, no, you're kidding.
No. I have played her mother in another film that we did maybe about 15 years ago. And she was going to be shooting in Richmond, and she knew I lived here. So she was kind enough to ask me to join her.
Wow. For me, that was just such a long shot, but I just thought, I think I see that. And my wife was like, maybe you don't want to say that. But I thought, but I'm watching this show. And it just seems like, so how are you guys related?
Well, I think it's her great-grandfather was my great-grandmother's brother. They were brother and sister.
Oh my
so
God.
We're cousins in some line of determination.
So you've known each other through these two projects or a long time? Okay.
No, long time. I've known her probably 30 years
when
we were both young.
Wow. Well, that's nice. So it was your old friends. You decided to do it. Is there something about the topicality though about the series that interested you?
I liked the script because it was well written. It was a good story, and I know that it is very topical. Although she wrote this maybe 7 years ago, to get something produced and shot and on the air takes time. And she just hit it right on the nose. I mean, it's just perfect timing for discussing the opioid problem as it is.
It's interesting. The show the show, I've seen the first 4 episodes. I didn't want to watch the last two. They were available, but I didn't want to watch them because I didn't want to make a mistake of giving something away. The one thing I thought about the show was the first episode. It's a little, um, it's a little tough to get into because I don't know if it was shot in sequence or out of sequence, but it felt like some of the cast was still kind of getting the hang of their parts. But by the second and third episodes, everyone seems real warmed up with who they are, and it just seems to be moving along at a much more emotional, where I felt the emotion of it. Uh,
Uh,
I don't know.
I think that's just happenstantial because we shot it as a movie. We shot it
Oh,
straight. And it was shot as a movie with scenes being in different places and not sequentially.
okay.
So there may have been some getting used to each other in some of the scenes that you saw. And I have not seen it broken up into episodes. I get to see it as a full length movie on Monday. So um,
Oh, I see.
I'll be anxious to see what you saw there.
Interesting, interesting. Well, I think I can mention this without giving too much away. There's a big scene at the beginning, um,
At the dinner
at
table,
the dinner table, yeah, which is a very
very early in the shooting.
yeah, and that's okay. See, that's what I thought because everyone is playing their part, but you didn't feel the connection between the characters, like between Victoria Rowell as Jilly's mom, your daughter, and her husband. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name, but they were playing their parts, but you just didn't feel. I didn't feel the connection between them that they did in the second and third and
Right.
episodes from there. So, okay, but it really warms up at around the middle. So.
And I hope they stick around past the first episode to see the rest of it.
You should, because it definitely gets
Really,
better.
yeah.
So you already knew Victoria. So you would work with her in this other film. How had you two met originally?
We met in the business in Los Angeles. Everybody meets everybody. They run into each other in auditions. They see each other at functions, and we've always been friends, and we've spent time together talking about our growing up together and just lots of things that people talk about casually.
Hmm.
And every once in a while, you get to work with somebody that you casually know.
Someone that you casually know, and then when is that moment when she says, "Hey, by the way, we're related"?
She did it this time. She has just started delving into her DNA. And she asked, would I like to take a DNA test? And I said, no. But she has connected with a lot of people from her family. And she mentioned some names. And I said, yes, those are on my father's side. I know those names. Yes, those people are related to me.
Wow, I mean that's just got to be kind of weird when some. I mean,
It's kind of, oh, wow, this is very interesting.
my wife and I did the testing, and we haven't had any major surprises in it. No one's popped up, although there are people that can reach out to you through 23andMe, and they can send you a message through the service and say, "We seem to be related. Do you know so and so and so and so?" And
Right.
I haven't made a big connection yet. I mean, fortunately, there are no there are no current
Nope.
presidents of the United States that I'm related to. Fortunately. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, you might find some vagabonds. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of those.
I'm
We
sure
all have those in our family.
I'm sure there's a lot of skeletons in ours. The other thing I didn't connect this until I was doing a little research this week. Um, Victoria has been in the news a little bit this year, unrelated to the filming. Related to Leslie Moonves, which I had no idea that she had a part in all that. When did you become aware of her issues with Moonves, and how has that? And I won't take too much time with this, but how has that affected her and her relationship to the business?
I did not know anything about her having a relationship with Moonves or having any incidents with Moonves. She has talked about problems that she's had with the network over the years, and she's a strong woman who stands up for her rights. So she has bumped heads with them, I'm sure, on several occasions, and she's discussed them with me every once in a while, but never the Moonves. I've known anything about that.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see that, and it did make me wonder, and especially now hearing that you two are related. But have you, you've been, as mentioned in the introduction, you've been involved with network television for a long time. Have you had any issues of your own, like she's?
None at all. I think people can read one is hungry and vulnerable, and I've never been too hungry for the business. I've been very blessed in getting the jobs that I've gotten, and I've dedicated myself to the work portion of it, and I don't strive to make myself available to somebody to do that. So I've never had any instance of that.
Have you heard the stories over the years, I imagine?
They kind of Hollywood lore talks about the casting couch and the agent couch and all that. I ran into one agent that somebody introduced me to have a meeting with, and he made intimations about a couch and what I needed to do. Very much goodbye left. So, no, I didn't get any of that directed at me.
Do you think? Do you think some part of the reason that maybe you avoided that, and I'm very glad to hear that you did, was that you and your husband worked so much together over the years and are a known quantity as a couple in the business, that perhaps that may have helped insulate you from some of that?
Perhaps. I have no idea.
Oh,
I had Bill Cosby was a mentor to me when I first got to Los Angeles before I met my husband, and he was just a good friend and has always been a good friend, and he's never done anything to me, but hey, I don't know what goes on in the rest of his life, only when I spend time with him, and I think he's a dear man.
And you never thought to yourself after hearing all the stories, wait a minute, I was with you. Why didn't you ever, what's wrong with me? No, I'm sorry. That's terrible. That's terrible. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed of myself for even saying that. Let's come back to the show, Jacqueline and Jilly. This is a multi-generation. This show is focused on the multi-generational aspect of the grandmother, right, the mother, and the daughter. Did you have much time? Obviously, now I know that you already knew Victoria. Did you have much time to get familiar with Nico, who plays your granddaughter in the series, before you began, or did the relationship begin as the camera started rolling?
As the camera started rolling, we got to know each other, and I watched her for a lot of scenes before I got to work with her, and she's just a delightful girl. I've seen her on Queen Sugar, and I saw the strength that she had on that show, so I was familiar with her work, but I had never met her. We all had a great time.
Oh, good. It was interesting. I searched her out and found her personal website, and she's still, aside from Queen Sugar and Jacqueline and Jilly, she's still fairly new to the business. And her website, the first thing that you see is a statement that she has joined SAG-AFTRA, and I thought, wow, that's pretty fresh.
Yeah. She's very young, and I think she's getting her feet kind of into the business. She's out in LA meeting people and having meetings, so I think she's well on her way.
Did she take advantage of having a couple of veterans around her? Did she ask you a lot of questions about the business or acting or anything?
We were too busy working. We didn't have a lot of downtime. When you shoot the way a low-budget film is shot, you have to do it in a certain number of days, and you have to get all the scenes shot. We didn't have a lot of time for chit-chat.
Got it. Okay. I was just curious. All right. So is there anything else you want? Because there's some other things I want to ask you about not related to Jacqueline and Jilly, but is there anything else about this series, which, as you mentioned, I guess you shot it thinking in terms of a film. It's airing on UMC as a 6-part miniseries. Anything else you want people to know about it before we maybe move on to another topic?
It's a rich, rich story, and it has to do with secrets that are kept throughout families that need to be exposed, and people really need to start talking truthfully among their family members. and just you got to air your dirty laundry so they know that exists, and you deal with it. You learn how to cope, and you learn how to grow as a family and know that you have strength in that union.
Part of the thing that kept me watching. Well, obviously, I kept watching because I knew we were going to talk. But the other thing, yeah, the other thing was that the family, the women in the family, particularly, are in denial that Jilly has a problem, and it's a really hard denial. It's not like, oh well, maybe she has a problem, or maybe she. It's a real hard denial, and I'm thinking that that's probably not unusual in families that.
Not unusual at all. No, I think that a lot of people think they revere doctors, and they think if the doctor gave you that medicine, then you must take it. And I have never been of that ilk, and know that no, if I'm not in pain, I don't need pain medication. And I know that my body will heal itself. So I don't have the problem of, I'm not an addictive type person. But I can understand how people can close their minds to the idea that someone close to them is related to somebody who they think is, and they don't want to put those two concepts together and put that in their family. They want their family to be strong, and we can deal with things. And sometimes you have to deal with the ugly things as well as all the wonderful things. I'm not surprised that people shun just admitting that there is an addictive problem. It doesn't make you weak, and hopefully this will get people to open up a little more and express that there is a problem. I need help, not I need to be banished.
Hopefully people find that the strength is in dealing with the problem and not avoiding it, because clearly avoiding it is not helping Jilly.
Not at all. No. And the spiral.
Well, I'd like to, if possible, move on to somewhat happier topics and talk to you about some of the other programs that you've been on over the years. Because, I mean, it struck me as I was thinking this morning too that just the number of theme songs that you've been attached to over the years is pretty remarkable. In an era where we really don't have theme songs on TV shows anymore.
No. And I've been in the business so long and done so many shows. I've met incredibly amounts of people, and I just feel so blessed. I came at the right time. I was in the right place at the right time, and I brought what they needed at that time, and am very pleased. And I hope that I will continue in this business for as long as I can stand, walk, and talk.
That would be great. The three theme songs. I'm going to go off of the theme songs in a second, but the three that are sticking in my head today are
WKRP.
Oh well, obviously, yeah, I can just hear that. It never goes away. It's like a pleasant earworm, I think is the term.
Oh yeah.
But also Hill Street Blues. The theme song for Hill Street was a top 10 song in its time, and then of course Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince. That never gets old.
No. Do you have a favorite theme song of all the shows that you've worked on?
Yes. It's Frank's Place theme song. Yeah. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans? Sung by the one and only. It was just beautiful. We also had the privilege. We did a show called Snoops for 13 episodes, and Ray Charles sang our theme song.
Wow.
And it's called Curiosity. And I like that one too.
I was a music critic in the 80s, and I've been trying to pull back a lot of those stories and get them online. This is embarrassing to say, but I did not remember that I had seen Ray Charles in concert once and maybe twice, but I had listened about a year ago to a book on audio. It was his memoir that someone had written, or I guess that wouldn't make it, his biography. And I was so fascinated with it, and I bought up a lot of music and was playing it. And then I found, oh my God, I did see him in person. I was just very embarrassed. So that's very cool that
Yeah,
you
that
guys
was
get to
very
spend time with
cool.
Ray.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever done a TV theme song before. But our music director for Frank's Place and for Snoop's
Hmm.
was Steve Tyrell, and he knew everybody in the business.
That's
So
awesome. Well, so I would like to, if, with your permission, I'd like to take you through some of the series that you've been on and just
okay.
see if there's any particular memory or story or person or something. I guess starting with Hill Street, you were on there. You were on
That
there a
was
long
the
time.
beginning.
Yeah.
No, I started before that with Robert Conrad on a show called The Duke
Well,
that was
I saw that. I was thinking more in terms of shows that stuck around
stuck
over time.
around.
But
Oh,
all
well.
right, tell me about Robert Conrad. He's been on this show, I should say.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
tell me
He
about working with
discovered
him.
He's the one who discovered me. He
Really?
put me on my first television show. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, he put me in another one of his shows called A Man Called Sloan.
Hmm.
And I was able to get an agent, and he started my career. So I always remember Robert Conrad.
Very nice.
And then Hill Street Blues was a guest starring role that I got to play about 4 times on Hill Street.
Hmm.
And Michael is a wonderful young man that I see now on commercials. And I didn't get to see too many of the people because of the way it was shot, but that was a fun show to do. And it was early in my career. So I didn't know quite what to look for or who to look for.
I understand. And of course that was followed by WKRP. Something important happened on that show, obviously.
Well, I met Tim. I had known Tim in Chicago before I moved to Los Angeles,
Hmm.
and we reconnected. And he was doing the show, and I just was visiting, and they cast me in one of the shows because of the other TV shows that I had done, and then they cast me again, and I got to know the writers and the creator very well. And when they moved on, I moved on to other shows like Simon and Simon. But I didn't meet Tim at WKRP. We just fell in love during WKRP.
Well, that's pretty substantial, right?
That's pretty substantial. Yeah, 5-minute date turned into our date turned into we just celebrated 2 days ago our 36th anniversary.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, did he? So you already knew him, but in terms of developing the relationship, uh, did he ever? I don't know. Did he ever blow it? I mean, did he ever? Was there ever a moment when you're like, I don't know about this guy, or he said something really dumb, or, what do you remember?
It's very funny. We broke up several times. We lived together for 2 years before we got married. So yeah, there was a lot of this is a real dummy. Do this. But the pros outweighed the cons, so we went ahead. And both of us had been married before, so we both had a little trepidation. A marriage, I don't say that out loud.
Hmm. Did
And I had a son. Yeah, how's the family going to meld together? We had lots of issues to deal with. Blending a family back in the early 80s is not an easy thing to do. So we managed to do it, and now have the most wonderful family, including exes. It's just a great, wonderful family. I'm very proud.
Well, that's nice to hear that. Even with the exes, it's worked out. That's more unusual than anything, I think. What is it about this guy? What makes it work? I mean, 36 years, I think you said. What's made it work? And especially all the usual things. It's Hollywood. You work in the same business. Sometimes often you've worked together. How do you make that work?
A lot of compromise, but you have a basis of trust and respect, and you fight a good fight. He's got great humor. He has great passion. The things that he's strong in, I'm weak in. The things that I'm strong in, he's weak in. So we make a good pair.
Man's very charismatic. There's no...
Yeah, he's a sweetie.
Yeah. After KRP, you guys worked together again in almost immediately, I guess, in Simon Simon.
Right. I didn't get hired until about a year after he was working there, and then they hired me as his love interest.
Mm-hmm. Anything particular stand out from that show and your experience on it?
Oh, Gerald McRaney was a hoot. And we had a good time. The boys were really a lot of fun. So that's all that stands. So we did adventure things and running and jumping and and playing bang bang and all that kind of stuff. So it was a fun show to work on.
No, I'm glad you mentioned Gerald. My wife and I saw a taping of Major Dad at one point, and he
Ah.
was fun in that. Um, I guess
And this business is very cyclical because Tim just did a TV movie with him, he and Delta Burke, about a couple of months ago. I don't know what it's called. It has something to do with Dolly Parton, but I have no idea what the project is.
Oh, I think I know what that might be. Is that the one that she did all the music for, and it was based on
I
a?
have no idea.
Okay.
I know he went to work. That's all I know.
I think I just heard her on the Hollywood Reporter's awards uh, podcast, and she was talking about uh, a song of hers they wanted to adapt, and then they brought her in to write a whole bunch of music. Maybe I wish I could remember the name of
I
that.
also read that she was doing a project that was making stories out of the songs that
Right.
she had recorded.
I think that's it.
May
Yeah.
have been one of them.
I,
But Tim enjoyed the experience.
oh, that's great. Well, I look forward to seeing that. And then, of course, Frank's Place.
Yes, one of my favorites. I cry when I watch Banks Place because it was so ahead of its time. It was so rich. But it was music driven, and that turned out to be the bane of reruns because of the license fees involved with running it. And we were canceled under political situation, and it was painful. It was really painful to get canceled on that show after we had started the second season. But I loved the fact that Tim was able to do a show based on people that he had known growing up, people who were parts of his community that made his community rich that you didn't see on television. It was not the community of Black people that a lot of Black people knew. So it was heralded by the community and it was embraced by the community. It was one of the warmest, most wonderful shows. And the people who were on it were all legends. We got to work with legends, and so many of them have passed on now. It was a wonderful experience.
Well, the critics loved the show. I hadn't really thought about the music issue, although that was an issue for WKRP for years, getting it
Right.
into syndication and distribution. It would seem in this period of, I guess what's called peak TV, that a show like Frank's Place today would probably be able to find a spot for itself.
Probably it would. Maybe even just 10 years ago, it would have been possible. But somebody may do something like that, and I will applaud them as well.
Very good. Of course, then we come to the Big Bear, Fresh Prince. That was that of course is interesting because you came in as the second mom, and you were on, I think, for the final three seasons. Is that
Yes,
right?
I was.
Tell me about that show. Tell me about working with Will, and whatever stands out from that period of time.
They started The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air right after Tim and I had just finished Snoops and a syndicated talk show called The Tim and Daphne Show. We had done 82 episodes. We were leaving Los Angeles. We were exhausted because we had done back-to-back series for at least 6 years. And Tim was getting a little strained doing all the things he was doing. So we said, okay, it's time to take a break. Let's go. And we moved to the farm, and it was relaxing, and it was wonderful. So before we left, I was asked to audition for a show. And Tim's son has always been in the music business. He started with Priority Records. Now he's with BMG. And so we watched rap grow from the beginning of it. And I wasn't real particular about it. And they said, oh, this is a show with a young rapper. And I said, I'll pass. Thank you very much. And we went off to the farm to have a life. And that fall, I turned on the television to see this little rapper show, and it was The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I said, oh my gosh, I've missed a good one. So 3 years later, we're at the farm, and I get a call and said, come and audition for a part of Aunt Vivian on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I said, I'll be there in 2 shakes. And I went and spent 2 weeks auditioning. It took 2 weeks because they saw 300 women, people I'd never seen before. And I was so happy and blessed to be in the final 3 and then to be chosen by the network to play the part. I also, during the audition, I think I fell in love with James Avery, and he has become very, very, very dear to me. And our families got to grow together very much. And he and his widow now, his wife and I are still very good friends. And they all used to travel with Tim and I. We go to Europe together to see The Butler. And we just have had a blast together. And he's just such a dear, dear, dear person. I missed, but I loved working with Will. I've never seen anyone with that much dedication to what he was doing. He was so smart, so respectful, and he gave 150% in rehearsal and always put it on the line during performance. And I admired the hell out of him for that. And he's a dear, dear person, too. I just adore him and his family, ex and present wife, and all the children. We grew up we grew these teenagers and young adults together. James and I tutoring them on the finer things of growing up, and as well as philosophy and literature. And we got to share a lot of different things and gain a lot of respect for each other during that show. So it was a wonderful working environment.
I hadn't realized that you had been up for the show when it first came about.
I wasn't really. They just called me and asked me to audition for it. I was never up for it.
Got it. Okay. So you were obviously happy when it came back around.
Oh, I jumped at that opportunity.
Excellent. And then finally, unless I missed something, I was going to ask you about Eve.
I was a guest star on that show as well. I
Okay.
played Jason. What is Jason's last name? Because he's on Grey's Anatomy now. Okay. I played Jason's mother.
There we go.
To do some wonderful barbs at Eve and comments on an older generation commenting on the younger generation and all the wonderful tattoos and things that they were doing that we found so disgusting. So I got to play a character I really enjoyed.
Nice. Very nice. So is there anything else in the works right now? Obviously, this is Jacqueline and Jilly is running now, but do you have any other projects that are coming up? Or
I just wrapped on a film starring Cynthia Erivo, who got the Tony Award for Color Purple on Broadway. And she's playing the lead role in a movie about Harriet Tubman, a movie called Harriet.
Oh.
And it was directed by a friend of mine, wonderful Casey Lemons directed it, and produced by another wonderful woman. Okay, Debbie, your name is gonna. Yes.
It's okay.
It's wonderful, and it's a focus feature, and I think they do wonderful, wonderful projects, and this is another one of wonderful projects to get a role in this, and they shot it in Virginia because Virginia is a good place to shoot films,
and very convenient for someone I happen to be speaking to. All right.
So don't let it stop you.
All right. Well, folks, listen, you can see Daphne Maxwell Reid in new episodes of Jacqueline and Jilly every Thursday through January 10th, 2019 on UMC, the Urban Movie Channel. And, of course, things being the way they are, it'll probably be available after that, but it just won't be brand new. You'll probably be able to, download it or watch it.
It's a delight. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. I was going to ask, can people find you? Is there a website, or you do social media at all? Yeah?
Easy one.
Okay.
DaphneMaxwellReid.com.
Beautiful.
And don't complicate Daphne. It's just DAP. DaphneMaxwellReid.com. And you'll see all the other things that I'm doing in photography and publishing and in dress designing.
Oh, very nice.
So
dress designing.
Yes, I design a line of coats. Mm-hmm.
Very nice. All right. Well, Daphne Maxwell Reid, it was a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you so much for joining us today on Mr. Media.
Thank you, and happy holidays to you for now. And as the podcast goes on, I'm sure there are other holidays coming up.
Thank you very much.
Turn your back on the deceiver. It's a bad idea to believe her. A bad idea to believe her. Turn up the stereo receiver. Turn up the stereo receiver.